A mantra from this Ved Panchashti. Mantra number 42, page number 137. From Atharva Ved. Om Abhyam Nah Karteh Antriksham Abhyam Dhyava Prithvi Ubhe Ime Abhyam Pashat Abhyam Purustat Uttarat Abhyam No Astuhu Abhyam Mitrat Abhyam Amitrat Abhyam Prokshat Abhyam नक्तम अभ्यम दिवानः सर्वा आशाः मम मित्रम भवन्तु। हे प्रभु, आपकी कृपा से हम सब ओर से निर्भय रहें। ओके, सो अभ्य मीन्स फियरलेसनेस। अंतरिक्ष से, आकाश से और पृथ्वी से भी किसी प्रकार से कोई संकट न आए, हम सब ओर से निर्भय रहें। सभी दिशाएं हमारे लिए सुखदायी हों, पूर्व पश्चिम उत्तर दक्षिण किसी ओर से कोई भय उत्पन्न न हो, अपने मित्रों से हमें कोई कष्ट ना मिले और हमारे शत्रु भी हमारा कुछ बिगाड़ ना सके। हे प्रभु, दिन रात हम सदा सुखी रहें और सब प्रकार से हमारा जीवन सुख से भरपूर हो। सुख से भरपूर होए जीवन ये है नाथ, भय का कारण हो न को निर्भयता हम साथ। आकाश व पाताल से, भूमि से भी देव, निर्भय रे हम सदा, विनय यही तब सेव। सभी ओर से शांति हो, शत्रु होए न कोए, शत्रु भी यदि हो कोई, भय न उससे होए। रात दिन इसी विध कटे, ऐसे ही सब काल, आजीवन ही सुख रहे, भय ना हो किसी काल। भय ना हो कहीं से भी भाई, जीवन हो मम सुख परदाई। सब दिशाएं हो मेरी मीत, सर्व जगती से मेरी प्रीत। Let's do the Vedic peace prayers also. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhu Bhuva Swaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Diyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Asto Ma Satgamya तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गम्या, मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गम्या। ओम सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु, सह वीर्यं करवावहि, तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहि। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम। Chapter 18 of Astavakra Gita, and we ended the class with verse number 35, where Rishi Astavakra is saying, in this world, those who devote themselves to diverse practices do not know the self, which is pure, enlightened, beloved, perfect, transcendental, and stainless. Okay, so in other words, a person who just keep on doing the practicing, stay busy with the rituals, and think that rituals are the goal, he says they really do not know the self. They don't move their attention towards the goal. Okay, so it's like it's talking about extreme ritualistic people. They think that doing the ritual and follow the ritual, they become rituals premi. Rituals have the means, they are the means for the end. And what is the end, he says? To know the self. And the self is the one which is pure, enlightened, beloved, perfect, transcendental, and stainless. And all those in the first line of 35 is Shuddham, Buddham, Priyam, Purnam, Nishprapancham, Niramyam. Okay, so these are pointers given towards the goal. Okay, so we should see that, are we moving towards that or not? Okay, now continuation of this thought in the next verse, number 36. न आपनोति कर्माणः मोक्षं विमूढः अभ्यासरूपिणः धन्या विज्ञान मात्रेण मुक्तः तिष्ठति अविक्रिया. न आपनोति, न means not, आपनोति attains, karmana by actions, moksham liberation, vimoodaha highly unintelligent person, vimoodaha abhyas rupina in the form of practice, dhanya the blessed, vigyan matren by mere intuitive enlightenment, muktaha liberated, tishtati remains, avikriyaha immutable. An highly unintelligent person never attains the self through the repeated practices. Okay? The Blessed One, through mere intuitive enlightenment, remains liberated and immutable. Okay? So if the last verse confused you, he is shaking us even further. So just look at it. That Karam Kand portion of the Vedas, sure, Karam Kand is also part of the Vedas. But if we get attached to the Karam Kand and we don't step into the higher place where the Upanishads are telling us to practice also. So mere rituals, then practice of the meditation. Actually, basically, that's what he's talking about. Abhyas Rupina is the meditation. So now he is jerking us up even further from the just a merely practice of the meditation. Okay. So first, the very first step is, do some rituals because mind is going into the worldly sphere. Bring your mind at the feet of Lord. Do some rituals. Offer some flowers, offer some water, spend some time. Okay. But after that, meditate also. But now this Guru is giving us another kick. It's almost like a jerking us up. He says, do not get attached to just mere meditation. The very act of meditation nourishes the ego. I am a better meditator. If from your meditation you have not gotten this intuitive enlightenment, the meditation is not working. You are only getting attached to the process of meditation. Okay, so that's where he says meditation is just the means. Experience of the self is the end. So this unintelligent person really means mechanically somebody is just doing the practice without looking at it. Is there any intuition increasing in me or not? Okay. So it's like a last traces of the ego, the sense of individuality in the meditator must end. It's not that he's putting down the meditation, but he's just saying that meditation is also just the means. And he has said that earlier also. Okay. Subject must merge with the object. Only then the one self alone shines with all the infinite bliss. And that's what this Vigyan Matren Muktaha Tishtati Avikriya. Okay. Then he says in the next one, Mudaha na apnoti tat brahm yataha bhavitum ichhati anichan api dhiraha hi par brahm savroop bhak. Mudaha, the fool. Na means not, apnoti attains. Tat means that, Brahm, yataha as, bhavitum to become, ichhati desires. Anichan without desiring. Api means even, Dhira, the wise one. He means surely. Par Brahm Svarup Bhak. Bhak means enjoys. Enjoys the nature of the Supreme Brahma, Par Brahm. The nature of Par Brahm. The fool does not attain Brahma. And who is the fool? Who thinks that the means is the end. That is a fool he's talking about. He's practicing, but he doesn't understand what the goal is. So the fool does not attain Brahma, for he desires to become it. The wise one certainly realizes the nature of the Supreme Brahma, even without desiring to do so. There's a very deep implication mentioned in this verse. See, impulse behind the meditation is the desire to realize. So over here, this Rishi is saying the very desire is the last link that holds the student on the seat of the struggle. This desire also should let go. Only then you will be gliding peacefully into the next door. And that door is the realm of the pure self. So this burning desire to realize, initially we need that. But later on we need to remove that. Only then, because as long as even if it's a desire for realization, desire is still a desire. It's in the mind. And we need to transcend this mind also. So in other words, in the beginning, the desire to gain spiritual vision is encouraged to the students. Because if we don't have the desire, naturally, we won't do any practice. But ultimately, this desire has to go away too. So almost, I always give you that example of sleeping, desire to sleep. But if you keep on desiring to sleep, making an effort to sleep, you will never sleep. You got to just drop that. So give up this very desire is the last effortless act. And in this effortlessness is the awakening. Okay? Because effort is made with the mind. But when you drop the mind, that's where the awakening is. See, you want to become Brahma. He says that's a wrong idea to become Brahma. You can never become Brahma. This is a false notion. What the right notion is, you are Brahma. You don't become Brahma. You are Brahma. So never desire to become Brahma. You may desire to be Brahma. There's a big difference between these two words. Because you are it. All you have to do is just remove that false sheath. Okay? Then he says, Niradharaha, Graha Vyagraha, Moodaha Sansar Poshkaha, Etasye Anartha Moolasye, Mool Chedaha, Krita Budhai, Niradhara, supportless, Niradhar. Graha Vyagraha, eager for attainment of freedom. Moodaha, fools, Sansar Poshkaha, sustainer of the world. Etasye, of this, Anarth Moolasya, the root of the misery. Mool Chedaha, cutting at the root. Mool means root. Ched means cutting it. So cutting at the root. Krita is done buddhai, by the wise, without any support and eager for the attainment of freedom. The fools only keep up the world. The wise cut at the very root of the world, which is the source of all misery. Okay, what is this world? World is our own perception of ideas, perception of these objects. That is the world. So the perception of the pluralistic world of phenomena, where is it stemming from? From the ignorance. And the wise one cuts at the very root of this tree of sansar. See, this tree of sansar we have studied in Bhagavad Gita in detail. Tree of sansar. So the non-apprehension of the reality, which is also called ignorance, it ends only when the apprehension of the reality, which is the knowledge. So knowledge is we are Brahma. We are Brahm. Right now also we are Brahm. We just don't know. It's a cloudy day in Chicago today. That doesn't mean that sun is not there. Sun is still there. We really don't see the sun because sun is being covered by the clouds. The same way, we are Brahma. It's just only covered with our ignorance. All we have to do is just remove that layer. You are Brahma. Okay. So Astavakra ji is here, ridicules those who in their eagerness for gaining this revelation spend their entire time and energy in mental control and suppression. He says mind itself is false. So instead of destroying the same source of the mind, he says, strive to control the mind proper way. Do not lose your energy. Okay. So instructions, see, in the beginning, the instructions are a little different. Right now, his instructions are for King Janaka. Remember that. So in the beginning, sure, we need to wholeheartedly do the practices, but then do not become a worshipper of the practices. That's what he's trying to tell us. So to try to control the mind from its fascinations is like trying to control the dreamer from its behavior in the dream. Or it's almost like if there is a rope and you think it's a snake and you pick up a stick and you're trying to kill the snake which is not even there, by hitting on that rope. So that's why in that sense he's using the word niradhar. Okay. So when you have the light, you know that it's not a snake. There's no need to kill the snake which doesn't even exist. So he says there's no adhar, there's no substratum to all this, what you are imagining.
हर्षी, आपने क्या बोला था? Do not become worshipper of
the rituals.
Okay. Thank
See,
you.
When a person says, no, I got to find the east or the north or this particular time, then we are becoming the worshipper of the rituals. Because by understanding all this, studying all this, we know God is there all the time. In every direction, between every direction too. Right? But initially you might like to, if somebody has never done it, so you say, yeah, do it at least at that time. In the morning when you get up. But later on, anytime. All the time. Okay? So this is very, very important for students like us who are studying this deep philosophy right now. So he says the source of all misery is the ignorance of the self. When we don't know who we are miserable. When we don't know who we are, what happens? Our desires keep on increasing. Anybody who has a lot of worldly desires is ignorant. An ignorant person will get very angry very easy too. They're all related. Gets attached also. Okay. So the source of all misery is the ignorance of the self, and the very conscious effort in meditation indicates that the meditation is still in the realm of ignorance. That's what he's talking about over here. Okay. So intense moment of your meditation, if you're really meditating properly, the meditation ends. Okay, meditation ends. Ends means you are not making any effort, and even your own individuality ends. Then there's no effort. As long as you're making an effort, you are not really absorbed into the self. So we got to make sure. See, that's why in the previous verses he used the word intuition, intuitive. Okay. So goal of the great sage over here is to take us to the next level. He doesn't want us to stay at a very beginner's level. Okay. So he's not discouraging us from meditation, but he says, don't get attached to it. Okay. Meditation is the means, not the goal, in a simple language. Number 39. Na shantim labte mudaha yataha shamitum ichhati धीरः तत्त्वं विनिश्चते सर्वदा शांत मानसः. Again, na means not, shanti means peace, labhte gains, mudaha the fool, yataha as, shamitum to be calm, ichhati wants to get, dhiraha the wise one, tattvam truth, vinishyate knowing for certain, sarvada ever, shant manasaha tranquil in mind. Since the fool wants to get peace through control of his mind, he does not gain it. The wise one, knowing for certain the truth, is ever tranquil in mind. So, in other words, the realization of the self alone can fill the personality of a sage with that peace that passes all understanding. The peace which is there all the time. So the wise does not say that because of this situation or because of this person, I am disturbed. Will always stay peaceful. Okay. So na shantim labte muda yata shamitum ichchati. Dhira tattvam vinishyate. Certainly, with the utmost certainty, is always sarvada shant manasa. Always shant. It's not that circumstances change. The dhira or the wise person knows the reality, does not get disturbed with the circumstances. So the fool wants to get peace, he struggles to control his mind. And he misses it totally. And the same struggle brings a lot of conflicts in the fool's mind. And conflicts is because of somebody else. I have lost my peace. Wise person will never say that. Wise at this level I'm talking about. So the fool desires to gain peace as though it has to be gained as a reward for his efforts in controlling the mind. And the very struggle in controlling the mind feeds the mind and makes it strong. The same mind becomes strong and very stubborn also. It's almost like if there's a fire and you want to put down the fire with gasoline, thinking that it's water. Okay? So mind can never be controlled by the mind. How do we control the mind? With something which is higher than the mind. What is higher than the mind? Intellect. You remember that analogy of the chariot? Mind is what? The reins. Reins are connected with the horses. If the reins are not in the hand of the charioteer, chariot cannot be controlled. Our own mind also, Lord Krishna gave us a beautiful analogy also, beautiful way of controlling this mind also. Mind can never be controlled with the mind. Mind has to be given to something higher and subtler than the mind. Intellect. And that's why we study. So that there is something higher we pour into it. Okay. So by rising above the mind alone can this equipment be controlled. And the wise, this is wisdom. So the wise one experiencing for certain, ultimately the intellect knows. When you keep on putting more and more satvikta in there and satvik knowledge also, intellect understands there is something higher than me also. Who's the owner of me? That driver of the chariot must listen to the owner of the chariot who is sitting in the back. And this our intellect also should get the guidance from the Atma. Okay. So our meditation, our practice of meditation, even our rituals should take us towards this level where we realize who we are. It's not that we are becoming that, we are that. All we have to do is realize that. It's as simple as that. So the wise one experiencing for certain the self in the direct vision. So it's like an experience. It's not only theoretical then. Experience has to be there. Is ever tranquil because that is the nature of self, tranquility. Atma is never disturbed. Atma is never dark. It's always tranquil. It's always full of light. It knows it all because it's a part of that omniscient, omnipotent, all loving, all caring, all compassionate, all beautiful. It's part of that. Then where is the disturbance? Disturbance is only when we forget our true nature and we identify with something which we are not. So that's why he said this is a wise person, is the one who is ever tranquil. Just underline this word, sarvada. We are tranquil here and there, but normally our tranquility is only dependent upon the external. It has to be independent of the external. Only then we'll say that it's a sarvada shant manasa. क्व आत्मनः दर्शनम तस्य यत् दृष्टम अवलंबते धीरा तम तम न पश्यन्ति पश्यन्ति आत्मनम अव्यम. Kva means where, atmanah of the self, darshanam knowledge, tasya whose, yat means who, Drishtam, seeing the manifested world. Avalambate, resorts to. Dhiraha, the wise. Tam, this and that. Na pashyanti, not to see. Pashyanti, see. Atmanam, self. Avyam, immutable. Where is the vision of the self to one who resorts to seeing the manifested world? So if our attention is always into this objective world, where is the vision of the self? Even though self is there, we just don't relate to it. We don't understand it. We are not connected with it. So that's why he's asking a question when he says Kwa. So where is the vision of the self to one who resorts to seeing the manifested world? The wise do not see this and that. Tam. But see only the immutable self. So the wise has the direct experience of the self. So this is the idea which is emphasized in this verse. Sure, wise has the body, the emotions, all the other equipments are there. But even in those equipments, he understands what the reality is. He does not waste time with the temporary. He knows what the permanent is. So because everything is manifested. This body is manifested, mind is manifested, intellect is manifested, objects, relationships, everything is just a manifestation. He focuses, stays connected with the self. Because as long as our awareness is turned outward, and more it's turned outward, we are only conscious of the world of polarity or the multiplicity. So that's why he says such an individual can never come to be awakened to the infinite glory. So in that sense, he's saying the realized saints and sages, the wise do not see this and that. That doesn't mean that with these eyes, wise doesn't see, but wise always has one eye turned inward also, knows the whole picture. What is it? Does not lose his peace of mind because of that, because he understands that this is immutable reality alone. So as a meditator, as a abhyasi, as a student, we need to rise above this immutable world. Rise above, live in it, but keep our awareness little above. So the idea of the previous verse is expanded and emphasized in this verse also. So all these verses are like a beads connected. Do not take one verse alone. If you have understood the previous one, you'll see that this one is making more sense to you. So rising above the mind is the only method. We need to learn to renounce even the last lingering sense of identification as the meditator. Okay, just like it, detach from it. This is what he is telling us to do. Identification with the self, not as a meditator. Because in the worldly perception, there always be subject-object relationship. But we got to be clear about it, that in reality, who we are. Then he says, Kva nirodha. Again, he's asking us a question. Kva nirodha vimudasya ya nirbandham karoti ve. Swaramasya ev dhirasya sarvada asau akritimah. Ku means where, nirodha, control of mind. Vimudasya, of the supreme fool. Ya means who, nirbandham, karoti, strives. Where means indeed. Swaramasya, who delights in the self. Ev means surely, dhirasya, the wise one, sarvada, always, asau, that, akritimaha, spontaneous. See, kritra is doing something, akritim, just spontaneously when something happens. Where is the control of the mind for the fool who strives for it? To the wise one who delights in the self, it's indeed spontaneous. And the spontaneous means it's like a perennial. So you can see that this great Rishi is pounding on the same message again and again to us. He's not finished explaining that he's criticizing the initial stages of sadhana for an advanced student. Got to move up. For a kindergartner, sure, repeating the alphabet, repeating the numbers, forward, backward, all that is very important. But when we move on to our graduate classes, postgraduate, do we still keep doing it? We don't. We already know that. So this is what he's doing. He's talking to a person who is at a very advanced level. Okay. So to control the mind with the mind is ineffectual. It's almost a laughable attempt as to straighten a dog's tail. Okay, mind can never be. We got to transcend the mind. Because it's the very nature of the mind that it will gush out. If the intellect or the charioteer loosens that rein, what will happen? Rein will become loose. And with the loose rein, the horses will run here and there. Because that's the nature of the horses and that's the nature of the rein. The same thing happens. The rein is the mind. Horses are the senses. So nature of the senses is like that. We cannot fault that's why senses want to see. Hey, control that. And then after that, move your attention inward and know yourself. That's what we need to do. So he says, fools alone continue striving in the control of the mind. As long as the striving exists, the mind continues. And this kind of a person he's calling a fool or a foolish sadhak. Okay. So, and on the other hand, he says, one who delights in the self. So when you sit in the meditation, delight in yourself. That is Swaramasya. Because senses like to delight in the objects outside. But there is a big source right here. So one who delights in the self, for this kind of a enlightened one, mental control is spontaneous and perennial. That's what he's talking about. Because he has risen above the mind. Because the understanding has dawned that the mind itself is an illusion. Because what is mind? Mind is part of the Prakriti. And what is the Prakriti? Another name of Prakriti is Maya. So what is mind? Maya. So this person has understood. So in that sense, he just keeps calling this person a dheer. Dheer. So early sadhaks, again I will repeat, should control the mind. Okay, don't just take it from here that we don't need to control the mind. Early sadhak should control the mind. It has been repeated all along. But later on, there's no need to control the mind. Because a sadhak has risen to the higher frontiers. Merger of the individual self with the universal self. Then there's no need to control the mind. Mind is not an obstacle then. Let's do one more. Bhavasya bhavakaha kaschit na kinchit bhavaka apara ubhya abhavakaha kaschit ev evam nirakula. Bhavasya of existence. Bhavaka, who thinks. Kaschit, someone. Na kinchit bhavaka. Na means not. Kinchit bhavaka means who thinks that nothing is. Apara, someone else. Ubhya abhavakaha, who thinks neither. Ubhya. Ubhya means both. He doesn't think this or that. Ubhya. Kaschit ev, rarely one. Eva means thus, nirakula, free from distractions. Some think that existence is, and others that nothing is. Rare is the one who thinks neither. He is perfectly serene, free from all distractions. So in this verse, Rishi Astavakra is taking our mind towards other Indian philosophies. Bhavasya bhavaka kaschit and na kinchit bhavaka apara. The Charvaks, there's a Charvak philosophy. Charvak philosophy is a pure materialistic philosophy. See what a great freedom given in that land. Everybody is not put into the same box. Philosophies have come. There are great books written. So Charvak, that is the name of this philosophy, materialistic philosophy. So this is like a supreme atheist. That's another way you can understand it. So Charvak philosophy says the world is existence. It is real. There's nothing beyond this. Whatever you see, that's what it is. Whatever you don't see, it doesn't exist. So that's why he said the world is existence, or the manifested world alone is the only reality. Whatever you see, whatever you can hear, that's all. And other thinkers, when he says apara, other thinkers meaning a group of, it's a group of Buddhists actually. It's not all the Buddhists, but there is a branch of Buddhism which consider nothing is. So this is what he is mentioning over here. Some think that existence is, and others that nothing is. Then he says, Ubhya abhavaka kaschitev evam nirakula. And some consider that the self is to be meditated upon as existence, knowledge, bliss. Sat Chit Anand. Okay. That means these practitioners, they recommend that the infinite is realized when the mind has no existent thoughts. He says, rare is the one.
What are you looking?
Rare is the one who thinks neither. He is perfectly serene. He is calm. He says, yes, there is existence here. There's a manifested world, but it is a temporary world. It's not real, but it does exist. But there is something which we cannot see, unmanifested, that exists. So in that sense, he's talking about that kind of a practitioner, that kind of a wise person is ever peaceful. It's almost like the post remains as the post. If you think there was a ghost on it, that was an illusion. Its presence or absence is of no concern to the post. Or absence, another example we normally use, a rope and the snake. Thinking that it was a snake, it does not bother the rope. Okay, so he's just taking our mind that, hey, some people think that, some people think that way. So some think that existence is and others nothing is. Rare is the one who thinks neither. He doesn't like to waste time on that. He is perfectly serene, free from all distractions, because these do become distractions. We waste time, we waste energy. They become distractions, and we are not concentrating, we are not connected, and we are not peaceful. See, distraction will always cause restlessness. Okay, so it's a very high level of a philosophy he's talking about over here. So that's why not just listening, but reflecting upon it, thinking it for yourself is very important. Seeing what is, if he's saying again and again, the wise is ever peaceful, and if you are not peaceful, what is the reason? What is it that makes me unpeaceful, disturbed, restless? Because it's not this peaceful state is only for a few. This is the real nature. This is the nature we have. And he says you can reach there spontaneously. And if we have not, why not? Okay, so 11:20. So let's stop it here. We'll start next week's class with number 43. So anybody, any question?
Hershey, I have a question. You mentioned the word perennial a couple of times.
Yeah.
What does the word actually mean in the context?
Yeah. Perennial means it's just like all the time. Okay. Annual means every year, right? Okay. Perennial means continuously. Continuously. Thank you. There's no break. Okay. Got it. Yep. Anybody else?
Urmil.
Yes.
I'll unmute.
Unmute yourself, please.
On page 152.
What's the verse number? What's the verse
40,
number?
40.
Oh, 40, okay.
And it says under the instructions for the wise do not see this and that, but see the immutable self. And it says knowledge depends on the object, is relative and not absolute. Who sees duality? Relative knowledge is dependent on three factors: the knower, the known, and the knowing. But this trade is lost in absolute knowledge. It was too much English for me to understand.
If it's too much for you, Urmil, I think it's a lot for me. Right?
I got lost there. Dependent on three factors: the knower, the known, and the knowing. That is God, the supreme being. But this trade is lost in absolute knowledge.
Yeah, so that means when you have a absolute knowledge, absolute means you really know in reality,
Yeah.
this division is melted away. Who is meditating then? On whom you are meditating? All of that melts away. Okay? So that sense he was saying that you are not meditating. Because meditator has lost its identification. Who is what is meditating in us? Mind is. Mind has been dissolved in that absoluteness. Okay?
So the knower, the knowing, and
They all become one.
they all merge into that.
Because the rest of them, they don't have existence of their own.
Mhm.
I have a body because there's a soul in there. I'm aware of my thinking and my feeling and perceiving because of the soul there. Otherwise, none of it has any existence. So when I have an absolute merger in the self, rest has been dissolved. Whether you not think that it has been dissolved or whether you're going to think it has transcended, whichever way, these are just the words. They talk in scriptures, they talk about the salt doll. Salt doll. When you put the salt doll, it could be a big doll, small doll, beautiful doll, ugly doll, whatever doll. When you put it into the ocean, what happens? It's dissolved in that salted water. Yeah. Right? So this is the absorption. Okay.
Raj.
Huh? What did you say, Jyoti?
No, Raj Mittal has a question.
Oh, Raj has a question. Okay, Raj.
Namaskar, Harshji. I
Namaskar.
have a question on 41. So it says that, so he's recommending that we try not to control the mind, but just take delight in the self.
Okay, that's why I mentioned several times. It's not for the beginners.
Mhm.
It is when you are meditating and you have reached a state where you feel the oneness with that Paramatma.
Mhm.
Do not bring your mind back to the attention back to the mind.
But is it same as like when we are meditating and they say vichar aate hain, to let them come and go, kind of don't try to pay attention or don't try to control.
Yeah.
Same
Just
thing.
try to relax at that time. See, initially you need to control your mind. But when it's already controlled, if we again try to control it, what will happen? Our attention comes outwardly again. Okay? So we got to just let it go at that time. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's almost like I gave you the example of sleeping. If it's already sleeping and you want to make sure are you sleeping properly or not, then you are coming out of your sleep. Right? When you're asleep, you're asleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
No, that's a good example.
This happens also when you are deep in the meditation. Just don't try to control your mind then. Mind has been absorbed or transcended. Okay? Then just enjoy that serenity. So this is for a higher, like a more experienced meditators he's talking about. Okay?
Nana has a question. Nana?
Yes, Nana.
Yeah, Harshji, all these verses are looks like they're connected. Can you please summarize these in a short form, little bit?
Yeah, in a short form, what he's trying to tell us that do not identify yourself with the physical body or with the physical body, the rituals you are doing, or with the mind also. Just disidentify from the lower and attain that higher self and be content with that. Be peaceful. Okay. So this is like for a student who is practicing, definitely practicing, but do not call yourself a practitioner again and again. You don't need to brag about it. If you are doing it, that's it. There's no question about it. No getting a certificate about it. We need to rise above this. Okay. Anybody else?
Urbil again.
Thank you.
Harji, in the beginning, he calls the ignorant, which sounds a little nice. But when he starts calling them fool, it sounded very hurtful to me. Because
But
he's
what is
only,
happening?
every
What is
human being is
happening?
trying to get over ignorance, but to call them fools, I didn't like.
Okay, all right. When you meet him, you can tell him that. Don't call us fools.
इस बुक में तो पहले दिन से ही वो मूड वर्ड बहुत यूज कर रहा है.
हाँ, वो हमें अच्छा नहीं लगा.
Yeah,
Ignorant.
but Urmil, हमें अच्छा क्यों नहीं लगा? Because we have the ego, right? We think that we are studying, we are meditating, we are helping, we are doing the seva also. We are so good.
No. We are somewhere in between the fool and the dissolved
Wise,
nahi hai.
the wise, huh?
We are somewhere, we are trying. We are practitioners at the lower level.
Yeah, no,
But
that is true. That is
fool,
true.
fool तो बेचारे बिल्कुल ही रद्द कर दी उनकी.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes these strong words are used to just wake us up. Okay, we should not take it.
I woke up.
Yeah. Personally, we should not take it. I think he wants to say something. Yes.
I was thinking that you just explained that once you have reached that level of, let's say, samadhi or concentration, don't come back to control the mind. I was thinking, what would possess you to come back to control the mind when you have already gone beyond that and you're already in that little bit of blissful place? Why would you come back unless your dhyan has really gone? So that's why you're coming back, or you have already gotten out of there. That's the only reason you would come back and try to control the mind once again. So then when you come back to, that's where he's saying, don't control now, just sit and relax. What is he trying to say? I didn't understand.
Okay, he's trying to say there have been some cases over here at the ashram where a person has gone into samadhi, but then part of their mind did come out. What will others think?
So then he was not, that person was not fully there then.
Yes, but
it
next
was only
time
halfway there then.
Yeah, but next time when it happens, don't come back. Just enjoy. Be serene about it. Learn from those moments also. Sometimes it could be what others are thinking, or sometimes, I don't know whether Randa is here or not today in the class. She just was enjoying, and all of a sudden she thought about her son. And
but the thought that came about her son, that means she wasn't fully there. So the thoughts pulled you back anyway. So you have no control then anyway. You have been pulled back, and then again you have to start from all over again by controlling where you are. So if you're going to control, then that is not what he's saying. He tells you, don't try to control your mind again. So I didn't understand practically how does that work?
Yeah, no, I think he's just trying to tell us that, hey, do not let your mind fluctuate. Because if you try to control your mind,
then it would be controlling the mind. If you're not trying to let it fluctuate, that means you're controlling it.
No, at that time, I mean, when you are in samadhi, you are already above it.
Then you're above it. Then there is no question of mind there. Then
and stay there, enjoy it, or even otherwise also. Just try not to run after the mind so much. It may not be just only during samadhi. It could be otherwise too.
Otherwise, maybe that might
Otherwise,
be you need
because
to
we run
relax.
after the mind so much, right? Mind is the one which is dictating everything for us. So rise above the mind otherwise too.
So maybe it is like, don't work so hard because then it won't work. But once you are there, you are there, then
If you
the
are
mind cannot pull you back.
no, you're right. If you are fully established there, then it won't.
It won't.
Yeah. And the main thing which I learned from these verses is that
Rest. I
attention,
think he's trying to say rest. Once you have reached somewhere, rest. Don't just keep running, because that might be the nature of human being. But because he keeps on saying earlier also, be happy, rest, relax.
be
Because
happy, be content, be shant. Yeah. Because he's giving us, he's indicating to us what it will be like when we are fully absorbed in there.
So maybe it means that once you have tasted it and you have come back because the mind pulled you back, don't then work so hard about it. Just rest, and it will maybe come naturally again. That's what I'm thinking.
That's what he meant, like effortlessly.
Yeah.
The whole process has to be effortlessly. If we are making too much effort, we are making our mind, the mind which we are trying to control, we are making that mind very strong. And that strong and stubborn mind will not yield. Will not yield.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but I just want to tell you that don't think that we don't need to meditate. That's not what he's saying.
That I know for sure.
Yeah, we definitely need to meditate. We are not there yet.
No, there is no question about it. That I know. But I was just wondering that once you have reached that blissful place, the mind is left far behind. Then when he says, now don't try to control the mind, why would the mind is not there?
I don't think mind is left behind that easily.
It goes with you. It is going with you.
Yeah, mind still is with us quite a bit. Okay, so it's not left behind. It's not a physical thing which we can leave behind. It's still with us. Yeah. It's a very, very strong. And in fact, mind is the one, we can use that mind to go into the upper areas too, but don't identify yourself with the mind.
I think unless there is a level of relaxation, a level of rest, you will not reach nowhere. There has to be a level of rest, and maybe that is what he's trying to indicate, that rest in that space. Don't start,
There's almost like there is a time to work hard, to earn money, time to buy the groceries, time to cook, and then sit down and time to enjoy the meal also.
Yeah.
Right? The same way over here, learning, contemplating, practicing, then after that, relax about it. Relax about, enjoy it. Because again and again, he says enjoyment, peacefulness, happiness, all these different terms he's giving it to us. Okay.
Thank you.
11:35. I think today Kamla was supposed to sing the bhajan.
Just one more question, Harshi. Sujata.
Okay.
Sujata.
Namaste, Harshi.
Namaste, Sujata.
I had a question about meditation.
Sure.
When you meditate, you control your mind and you focus on one point or one object. And eventually, if you succeed in that, where does your attention rest?
Attention rests on the object of your meditation. Object.
But I guess I have a question. Once you manage to do that, then what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to look for your subconscious or your chit? And what do you do there? Like, I don't think he wants us to rest at that point, right?
You are not supposed to do anything. Whatever happens then happens automatically.
Okay.
Because sometimes what happens is with that kind of attention, with that kind of because you're connected with that higher power, there is a cleansing happening from your chitta. Cleansing. And
Okay.
whatever those sanskaras which are coming out, you visualize, don't identify with them.
So I mean, your mind will become active, but you are still supposed to concentrate on the object of your
Definitely,
meditation.
because initially we do have a lot of impressions. Those impressions will come to the surface. That's why meditation is a technique to clean our chitta. What he is talking about, what we are studying over here in Astavakra Gita at this point, that mind is already very clean.
Yes.
This level of a student, those chit is extremely clean. Nothing is coming out. So that's why he's saying that do not disturb it again. But at our level, definitely, there is a cleansing being happening. So we got to just stay connected with that divinity. We are aware of our connection over there. And whatever we visualize, just let it happen. It's almost like when we are vacuuming the carpet. We focus that we are vacuuming, but whatever is coming out, it's just going in there. We don't pay further attention to that, whether it's a dirt or whether anything else which is being sucked. Then we throw it out. So that's what's happening during meditation also. It's a extremely powerful cleansing process, the meditation.
So you don't have to say, oh, here comes this attachment.
No, don't say
no,
it.
so-
The minute we start saying it, we get attached more.
Okay.
We got to just let it come out and let it go. It's not worth it. Okay, we don't want to further. It's almost like we don't want to open up that vacuum bag and see what did I catch. We throw it out. In fact, sometimes we don't want to look at it. We just throw it out. Okay, so our attention should be on that divine, that divinity where we are concentrating. Okay, divinity, that's it. It could be a divine object, it could be a divine mantra, it could be a divine light, just that's all, nothing else. Because we are not, some people, they just confuse meditation with the reflection.
Right.
Right? No, we are not reflecting on anything. In meditation, we are only meditating. Okay.
But sometimes when you're using a mantra, the mantra starts dominating the process.
Yeah. Initially, mantra will, when we go higher into the meditation, mantra will drop down. That's why mantra from outside, we should not try to listen like any tape or YouTube during our meditation. And no mantra recitation from your mouth. Mantra should be only in our mind initially when we are sitting down in meditation, and slowly you will see that mantra will
Stop.
drop down.
And so you should let it stop.
Yeah, it stops actually. When you are concentrating fully, it stops. That's what happens. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you are, see the reason you are asking these questions, because I can see that you are practicing. So good. Do we have Kamla or she's gone now?
मैं हूँ हर्षी यहाँ
Oh, okay. All right, Kamla, if you can sing a bhajan, please.
हाँ जी. कभी राम बन के कभी श्याम बन के चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना. कभी राम बन के कभी श्याम बन के प्रभु आना कब जी चले आना. तुम राम रूप में आना तुम राम रूप में आना। सीता साथ लेके धनुष हाथ लेके चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना। कभी राम बन के कभी श्याम बन के चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना। तुम श्याम रूप में आना। तुम श्याम रूप में आना। राधा साथ लेके मुरली हाथ लेके चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना। चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना। कभी राम बन के कभी श्याम बन के चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना। तुम शिव के रूप में आना। तुम शिव के रूप में आना। गौरी साथ लेके डमरू हाथ लेके चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना। चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना। कभी राम बन के कभी श्याम बन के चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना। चले आना प्रभु जी चले आना। Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamla. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.